Tuesday, I think. Yeah, Tuesday, June 13th. Today's my older brother's birthday. If you're on Twitter, you should go tweet at WeHoWino and say happy birthday, Christopher. Back to business today. Last time we spoke, it was a bit of a crazy Thursday evening, spilled into Friday morning over at the Mirage. Today we're back in the thick of it, back on the grind here at the Rio World Series of Poker headquarters. Just gonna be hopping in the cash games, probably gonna be playing some 5-10. I actually came by here last night. I was here last night for a little while. Played for a few hours. It was a really short session. There's a few hands that we can go over real quick just to get the gist of that session, just so that it's on the books. So in the first one, I open up pocket threes. I make it 35 to go from under the gun +1. End up with 3 callers, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes Jack 6 deuce rainbow, whiff this time. Check it over to the player on my left who puts out a bit of $200. Folds back to me. Obviously, just gonna let this one go. No connection this time with the pocket threes. In this next hand, there's a straddle on, and the under the gun player limps. I look down at 9-8 of clubs. This is a hand I want to try and ISO the limper with, so I go ahead and make it $85. The big blind and the limper call. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes Jack 5-3, rainbow, 1 club. They check it over to me with 9 high and some good turn cards. A lot of good turn cards that can kind of give us either a straight draw or a flush draw. Lots of turn barrel opportunities here, so I go ahead and c-bet about $150. Doesn't come to that, doesn't come to the turn barreling. They both fold. Good result with the 9 high. In this next hand, we are playing maybe 6 or 7-handed. The hijack opens for $50. Pretty sizable open, 5x. But with it down at pocket 10s in the cutoff, and not too much choice here, just gonna have to see a flop, I think. When he makes it $50, it seems like he likes his hand. Usually I try to avoid 3-betting players that open this big. When they open for a bigger size, I tend to not 3-bet these sizings. So I just go ahead and flat, and the big blind calls as well. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes 8-4 deuce with 2 clubs. So we flop the overpair here. Big blind checks. The initial raiser bets $110. Not too many choices here. I go ahead and make the call, and the big blind folds. Turn pairs the board, offsuit deuce. This time he leads out for $325. A little bit iffy of a spot. I don't think I can just fold here, but not exactly loving it. He's showing a lot of strength pre-flop. Bet the flop, bet pretty strong here on the turn. So I don't expect to always be winning here, but it's just too good to fold at this point. So pretty straightforward call, I think. I toss in the call. River comes an offsuit 5, and I'm kind of hoping that he just slows down here and puts in a check rather than fires big again, because we're really going to be put to the test if he does. Good news is that he checks. So I just pretty quickly check back. I don't think I'm going to be getting value from some worse hands. It's possible. There's some chance that I could get value from pocket 9s or maybe the odd ace-8 that opened pre-flop. But there's also lots of other overcard, overpair, probably more of those hands than hands that we beat. With that in mind, I just check it back, and he rolls over Queen 7 offsuit. Yep, Queen 7 offsuit. So that hand's not going to win. Our pocket 10s are going to win, taking this one down. Guess that's some World Series of Poker cash game action for you in action. So yeah, that was last night. Today's a new day. Today's Tuesday. Time to hop back on the grind. I'm gonna make my way over there to the pavilion room. I think there's 4 or 5 10 games going, so just gonna put my name on the list, sit in whatever one they call me for, see how it is, and act accordingly. As I've said before, I think it's a really good idea to be game selecting pretty aggressively during this time, just because there's so many games and so many options on so many properties. So now that we're here, I would prefer to stay at this property, but I'll probably be keeping an eye on the other 5-10 games, as well as maybe some PLO games. I know they have a 5-5, I think, mandatory straddle, and those games can usually be much better. The PLO games are usually much better here in Vegas during the World Series than they are when the series is not happening. So that's another option. There's always 2-5. Probably be on the grind here at the Rio. All right, let's go. I wish I could point out the table to you in this lighting, but I cannot. It is somewhere back here, table number 201. Hopping in there, just sitting down. Game looks average, just from looking at it, so only one way to really find out. Let's go.
35.
510, no limit hold'em. The min buy-in is 400, max buy-in is uncapped, so I sit down for $2,000. And very early on in the session, we look down at pocket aces. I make it 30 to go from under the gun, the button, and the big blind call. So 3 ways to a flop here. Queen 7-3 with 2 diamonds. Big blind checks. I put out about half pot c-bet, 45. I think I could have sized a little bit bigger here versus 2 opponents and a semi-wet board, but I make it 45. The button calls. The big blind thinks for a while. And then he puts in a raise. He makes it 260 to go. Pretty big raise size here. He's only got maybe about 600 or 700 behind this raise. Since we have pocket aces, it makes it less likely that he has ace queen. And he would have to be getting really out of line to be raising a king queen or queen jack type hand here. It seems to me that his most likely hands are going to be various combo draws or just naked diamonds. We don't have the ace of diamonds, so we don't block the ace high flush draw. I feel like his most likely holding is probably going to be a flush draw on this spot. So I feel like if I flat call here, get it in on any non-diamond turn card, he's going to be in pretty bad shape going forward. I won't be able to get away if he does happen to have a set and the turn is a brick. I'm just going to have to call it off, I think, with the overpair and this stack size. So I flat call here and the button folds. Unfortunately, the turn is the king of diamonds, so we are beating very little of his range at this point. He goes ahead and he bets 175, which is a very small bet now. Since we don't have the ace of diamonds, we can't draw to improve at this point versus a flush, and we don't block the ace high flush. I feel like I'm just gonna have to let this one go. So I go ahead and fold, since the only hands that we're beating now is queen jack, queen 10, some random queen that he decided to massively overplay, or like a 5-6 type of a gut shot hand. Just very few hands that we're beating. Painful to let the aces go, as always, but I just let it go. Didn't see us beating too much of his range at this point. Next interesting hand here. Button opens for 30. We look down at another big pocket pair. Pocket jacks this time in the small blind. I 3-bet it to 120. Folds back to the button, who makes the call. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes ace 10-7 with 2 clubs. Not an ideal flop, so I check it over to him and he checks it back. Turn is a total brick, offsuit deuce. I decide to take the same line. I check it again, and once again, button checks back. River seems like a pretty good card. River is an offsuit ace, so it makes it much less likely now that he has an ace, especially after you check back twice with a flush draw on the board. So I feel like it's pretty likely that we have the best hand here. I'm just gonna try and put out a small blocker type value bet 105. He calls pretty quickly, and I roll it over, and he mucks. So never really happy to see that ace come out in a 3-bet pot with the big pair. Worked out okay this time.
5 players.
In this hand, we are playing 6-handed. The hijack opens for 30. I look down at pocket 7s in the cutoff. I go ahead and make the call. The button calls, and both blinds call. So a 5-way pot here with queen 4-3 rainbow. Action checks over to me. I just check it back, and the button checks as well. Turn brings a second 4 with a second club. Action checks to me again. I just decide to check as well, and action checks all the way through. River's an offsuit jack. Once again, action checks all the way to me. Happy to check here, and the button checks once again. Small blind shows pocket 5s. Big blind shows pocket 6s. Initial raiser mucks, and I show the 7s, and they're good. Not the most eventful of hands here, considering how multi-way it was, but take this one down. Just grinding it out here. In this hand, I look down at Jack 10 of diamonds in the cutoff. After it folds to me, I make it 30 to go. The button calls, and the small blind puts in a 3-bet this time. He makes it 130. He's a pretty good player. I think he can mix it up here, have a variety of holdings, so he doesn't have to have a premium all the time. Either way, I don't think it's terrible, since Jack 10 diamonds, Jack 10 suited, very playable hand, and we are over 200 big blinds deep here. I think I have about 2200, and he covers me, so 2200 effective. I think call is perfectly fine here with Jack 10 suited. Button calls as well. So 3 ways to the flop here in a 3-bet pot. Flop doesn't come too good for us. Flop comes ace 4 deuce with 2 hearts. Small blind puts out a small bet, 125. Not too much choice for me here. Got backdoor diamond draw, that's about it, but I just let go of the jack high. I continue watching the hand. The button makes the call. These two guys see a 9 offsuit 9 on the turn. The small blind bets 500, which is enough to put the button all in. Button thinks for a little while and makes the call. River's an offsuit jack. Small blind shows 8-7 of hearts for missed flush draw. Button shows ace 5 offsuit for the best hands. He was able to hang on there with the ace 5 offsuit pre-flop. Hung on post-flop. Ace 5 takes it down there, but interesting to see a little bit of closure there for the hand, and interesting to see the small blind putting screws on with the suited connector. No good this time. A couple of pocket pairs over the next handful of hands. I look down at pocket 5s in a raised pot that I had actually straddled. I make a call pre-flop, whiff the flop, no love, and unfortunately have to let that one go. Shortly after that, I open up pocket 4s to 30 from under the gun, get 2 calls, whiff that flop, check it back. There's a turn bet, I fold. I watch as that hand plays out, and the small blind flopped a set of deuces. Just not connecting with the on the sets today. Can't flop sets every day, I guess, which is news to me, but apparently it's true. There we go. Alright, just wrapping up the session. It's about 2:30 in the morning. Played for about 6 hours. 5 or 6 hours, I think. Just kind of grinded it out today. Nothing too crazy, too wild today to report. There was one hand that needs to be reported that I missed recording. Didn't have my phone in the proper location, so missed the recording of it. So in this hand, the hijack opens for 30. I flat ace 10 of diamonds in the cutoff, and the other players fold. So we go heads up to a pretty favorable flop of 10-4 deuce with 2 diamonds. The initial raiser puts out a bet of $50. Since we basically flopped the world here, I'm trying to put some more money into this pot, especially versus my neighbor, who seems like he's willing to put in some money here and there. So in this exact situation, I think it's pretty ideal. Put some more money in there. So I make it $165 to go. The hijack calls. So we're off to a turn card, which is the queen of diamonds. Make the nut flush right away. He leads out on this card. He bets $200. I just decided to flat call because I don't think we're afraid of any cards. I think even if the board pairs, it seems pretty unlikely that he should have a full house, because it would be very unlikely that he would be leading out on the flush card. So I decided to flat call and see a river card. River's a great card. Offsuit 8 changes nothing, and we end up with the nuts on the river. This time he bets $250. I think he's got somewhere around 1,200 or maybe slightly more total. Noise, nothing but noise. And apparently spotlights. Yeah, so anyway, we have the nuts on the river. He bets 250. He's got maybe 1,200 or so behind. I don't want to bet too big here. I don't want to just blow him out of the water. I raise it up to 725. He goes well into the tank. Thinks for quite a while. I was actually waiting for someone to call the clock here. Kind of surprised nobody did, but he eventually decides on a call. So good news, roll it over, ship that pot this way. We take that one down, so that worked out pretty nicely. Only other interesting hand was one where I opened up ace queen offsuit to 30 or 35 from late position. The big blind is pretty short stacked, has about $250 or $275 total. She just jams it all in there and announces that she's gambling, by the way. She says, "We're gambling," and shoves all in. I say, "Okay, we're gambling. That sounds good." I call, and she announces king high. Unfortunately, the board runs out king high, so she rolls over king queen offsuit. That's gonna be good enough for the win. Nails the 3-outer there, so we lose that pot, and that was pretty close to the last hand of the session that I played. So yeah, nothing, just nuts and bolts kind of a day, just grinding it out here. This is what it's about. This is poker. This is professional poker right here. You know, last couple of videos, there was a lot of drinks and hanging out on the strip and that sort of a thing. This was show up, sit down at the table, grind it out. Nothing too out of line today, which is definitely a good thing, I think. In for 2,000, cashed out for 26.81. That's a profit of $681 according to my math. Nothing glamorous, nothing too exciting. We won some hands, we lost some hands, and that's that. Grinding it out over here at the World Series of Poker. So back to more of this. Maybe go check out another property somewhere. Maybe come back here. No tournaments on the immediate docket. I am going to play the Monster Stack, but that is not until the following weekend. So maybe we'll find something to hop in the meantime, but we will definitely be back here on the grind one way or another. Just grinding it out. Grinding it out. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Since I screwed up the recording of that ace-10 of diamonds hand, did not get the footage. That's a $25 donation. If you're new to the channel, every time I report a hand where I should be able to record it, but I don't, that's a $25 penalty / donation to charity. And that's what we got. That's what happened today. So I think this time, the $25 is going to the One Drop Foundation. Seems appropriate here at the World Series. There you go, $25 to the One Drop.